How frequent is sex the issue in divorce? As in, I'm not talking about affairs, I'm saying sexlessness.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And also, is it increasing?
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. There's reverse engineering the demise of a marriage is a very difficult thing for anybody to do because the two people in the relationship aren't even really fully aware of what's going on in themselves, much less each other. And then an outside observer asking them. So like, you can do all the studies you want of people's self-reported satisfaction or lack of satisfaction in a relationship or what caused them to become dissatisfied. That is so loaded up with people's delusion and people's projection and all these other things that I don't think you could quantify it. So everything I'm saying as a divorce lawyer who I think is empathetic and who I think for a living puts myself in other people's mind to try to understand what they're doing and why they did what they did and come up with the best and worst possible excuses for it. And then to tell that story, right? Like I'm a full contact storyteller. That's my job. So, and my job, if you're really honest, is to manipulate people's emotional state. My job is to make a judge feel good about my client, bad about the other side, make the other side feel scared, and make my client feel safe. That's my job, is to manipulate everybody's emotional state through the power of storytelling. That's what being a divorce lawyer is. It sounds sexier when I say it that way, but that is what it is. So when we look at that as the job, where does sex fall into that equation? It's everywhere in that equation. Because again, it is the thing that separates this relationship from other kinds of relationships. Sex is a thing that is definitional to a romantic relationship. Now again, will it always be the same? Will it always stay at the same level of importance? No. But is it a great canary in the coal mine? That, you know, like something's off with the sex now? That tragedy's not far behind? Yeah, like, because almost every couple, when I talk to my side of the equation about when did this ship start to sink, there was certainly some change in sex. Because again, sex is definitional in terms of what distinguishes a romantic relationship from a platonic relationship. Because listen, guys, we can do this however we want as a society. We don't have to get married. We do not have to get married. We just have to reproduce. But we could just decide, hey, we're just gonna reproduce and we're gonna live in like colonies of platonic, relationships, and we'll just have sex for the purposes of breeding at certain times, and then we'll figure out who gets to raise what kids, and that'll be that. We don't do that. And it's not like, well, we don't do that because we made a set of rules. Societies don't do that. They've never really done that. Like there's somehow this permutation in the human and animal kingdom keeps coming up where we have pair bonds and we reproduce with the person who's our partner, and then we sort of work together. And how much does the tribe, how much does the rest of the world get involved in that? How extended is the family? How extended is the tribe? That varies, right? From species to species, from culture to culture, from time to time. But this fundamental idea of like reproduction between, the male and the female of the species, and there being some then continued interaction and a sharing of responsibilities towards the rearing of the young, it's pretty common, right? So what's the thing that makes A and B? It's the sex. Like there's sex. There's some romantic or sexual component to that relationship that then leads to reproduction of some kind. So I think when you take that out of the equation, or when there's a change in that, there's a disruption in the force, right? There's a disruption in the system. And then you can trace it back. Like, and again, sometimes it's not direct cause and effect. Like, we started having less sex, so then we stopped being nice to each other. Sometimes it's stopped being nice to each other, so we stopped having as much sex. But it's an element. It's always an element there, And that's my key piece of advice to everyone in the book that I try to say over and over and over again. If you had to summarize it, is pay attention. Just pay attention to what you're feeling, to what your partner's feeling, and then say it. I say that all marital problems stem from two things. I don't know what I want, and I don't know how to express it. And I think if you can figure that out, if you can figure out what you want and figure out how to express it, that's like 99% of the battle.